We're Dr. Sandra Southard, Dr. Fern Webb, Dr. Juan Luque, and Dr. Lourdes Vazconde Garbonate, co-leads for the Community Outreach and Engagement Corps of the Florida, California Cancer Research, Education, and Engagement Health Equity Center. CaRE2 is a bicoastal cancer research and training center that brings together researchers from Florida A&M University, the University of Florida, and the University of Southern California.
We CaRE2 Health Equity Center is funded by the National Cancer Institute Center for Reducing Cancer Health Disparities. CaRE2 is committed to eliminating cancer health disparities and promoting health equity among Black, African American, and Hispano and Latino adults living in California and in Florida.
Our center focuses on 3 specific cancers: prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, and lung cancer. We want to welcome you all who are listening to our We CaRE2 podcast.
Now we would like to introduce you to our host for this first season, Pastor Rhonda Holbert. She's a breast cancer survivor and an advocate, and the founder and CEO of the Celebrate Life Cancer Ministry, which is a nonprofit multicultural organization available to anyone affected by cancer and their families. Pastor Rhonda also serves as one of our CaRE2 Community Advisory Board members.
Welcome to Embracing Life Together, a conversation on cancer in the Black community. We are here today to explore journeys of resilience and triumph with Black cancer patients and survivors. In each episode, we're going to delve into unique challenges faced by Black communities in dealing with cancer and illuminate the interactions of race, health, and hope. And today we're having a conversation with 2 dynamic African-American men. We have Pastor Charles Latchison, and we have Mr. Freddie Muse Jr. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Rhonda. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Pastor Rhonda. It's a pleasure to be here. Glad to be a part of this.
Amen. All right, so let's just jump right in and just have this conversation about having you share your cancer survivor journey, including your initial diagnosis, treatment, and life post-treatment, wherever you are on your journey now.
Well, the first time was 2015, wherein going to the doctor, and there's always these sidewalk jokes about the prostate exam, and our doctor would give me the option, do you want one? And I would decline, and just several declines. He said, it's about time you had one. And after the prostate exam, you share it with your friends and you make jokes about it. And mail started coming to the house about a follow-up. And I didn't think it was necessary. And I didn't want to do a follow-up. So I ignored the mail. I ignored the mail for a couple of months. We went on vacation. When we came back, a bunch of mail is in the box. We take it. And Kaiser, who we have our medical coverage with, sent it certified. And my wife opened it. And she said, they want you to come in for another exam and a biopsy. The certified mail kind of raised a flag, and I finally went in. It was discovered that my PSA numbers were higher than normal. I think I was at 7 point something, and my prostate was swollen. I took several tests, I took several biopsies, and they found the fact that I did have cancer in my prostate. And to confirm it, we did MRI and then did another biopsy, and it was confirmed. And by this time, I was not even informed. I was not even educated about the process. So I'm trying to learn what I'm walking into on my way to the doctor's, the consultation as to what would happen. And I'm learning that the learning curve was real steep. I'm learning phrases and terms and definitions while I'm walking down the hallway. And I'm in his office and I'm trying to understand what he's saying. And all I heard was, you have cancer And he went on for another 20 minutes. And I'm glad my wife was there because I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And he gave me an option, said either you can go into radiation, or you can another treatment, or you can have the surgery. And then it was telling me the pros and cons of each one. And I didn't know. My wife was helping me process. And we said we would get back to him in a couple of days and decide. And it just hit me like a bunch of bricks, just bam. And I was able to gather myself, been praying about it, and being a people of faith, just really pulling in, just asking the Lord for strength. And after a couple of days, we decided for the surgery. And we did the surgery. It went successful. And all the process that goes into and follows the surgery, nothing was out of the norm. And I recovered very well. But 4 years later, my numbers went up and the cancer came back. We went after it pretty hard. We took the Lupron shot. We did radiation, about 7 weeks of radiation. But that Lupron shot was no joke. It adds on 30 pounds that you don't have to give. It gives you hot flashes, and I will never laugh at my wife again. I had hot flashes in the winter. Anyway, we got through that, cancer-free since 2019. Numbers still great, going well. I'm much wiser about it, much more sensitive about my health journey, my approach to my eating, my exercise, my follow-up, much more intentional about it. And I learned the hard way. I thank the Lord that I'm still living, and there's still more I want to do. I guess that's one way to put it, one version of my journey from the first diagnosis up to now, but I could share more if you have any questions.
Even though today is not women survivor sharing, I too stand as a 22-year cancer survivor of inflammatory breast cancer. And I understand that comment of it's just too much information at one time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Mr. Freddie, want to share with us today about your journey, and because you've been through a lot as well. Who shares?
Thank you so much, Reverend Charles, for your testimony. I appreciate that. And Pastor Ron, you guys are awesome. So I also am a 2-time prostate cancer survivor. First time being diagnosed in 2007 from a new job I had taken that moved me toward Northern California from Los Angeles, where I was residing at the time. And for that job, I needed to take an annual physical. And so it was during the physical that this Indian doctor, I can't remember his name, it's hard to pronounce, but he seemed to be very thorough. And what he said to me made the most sense in the world. He said, "Sir, if you were my father or my grandfather," because I was in my early 50s at the time, he said, "I would just have you test for everything since this is an annual physical." And I said, "Well, that makes sense. Let's do it." So he tested for everything, including the PSA. He informed me about the new test for prostate cancer that was relative for Black men because we are at higher risk. And so I submitted my samples. And 2 weeks later, he called me back in. I was a little confused about it because, man, I took the physical. I personally didn't want to come see you at that point. How did you go to work? Needless to say, I did make the appointment because I was not really proactive about my health at that time. Didn't know a lot about anything medical at that time because I grew up relatively healthy, never went to the hospital for anything other than to visit somebody or for my kids to be born. So, I had very little information about health issues, health in general. So I made the follow-up doctor's appointment where I was given those 3 dreaded words, "You have cancer." And it just happened to be prostate cancer. And I said, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that? I was about 52 at the time, and it threw me for a loop. What do you do about that? I had no prior information, not like the men have today, that there's tons of information out there today on prostate cancer, prostate in general. But at that time, there was not. He shared with me the options because, as I found out, my PSA was 14. And for a Black man in his 50s, that was an automatic red flag. So he informed me of my options. He gave me some literature to take with me. And what I realized is that, I didn't have to pounce on this thing immediately. Oh, right, by the way, I did have to have a biopsy, which determined my stage and grade. My stage was stage 2, grade was 3 + 4 = 7. So stage 2 with a PSA of 14. And I couldn't make sense of that at the time. I had no idea what that meant, but the doctor did inform me that, it was caught early. I wasn't showing any symptoms. I was asymptomatic. And here are some options. So radiation, at the time, there was no immunotherapy, but radiation, the different types of radiation, there's 3 of them: cryotherapy, brachytherapy, and external beam, and then surgery. Those were my 2 options. I'm not a fan of surgery, just not a fan of it. So I chose radiation, and I endured 9 weeks of 42 treatments of radiation. And it was determined at the end of that I was cancer-free. I took a PSA 2 or 3 days after I completed my 42nd treatment, and my numbers had went up. It was too early. The radiation was still working on killing the cancer. So that was too early. So I mentioned to my doc, I said, "Hey, doc, man, what happened? My numbers went up." He said, "Well, I didn't require you to take a PSA that soon. You have to wait a month or 2 and then take a PSA to see where your numbers are at that time." 3 months later, I took another PSA, and of course, my numbers were undetectable. So I was deemed cancer-free. But in the meantime, I was talking to men everywhere I went. "Hey guys, what do you know about prostate cancer? Or have you ever had prostate cancer? Do you know anyone who has I could talk to?" The hospital where I did the treatments, that was Mercy Hospital in Bakersfield, is where I completed the radiation treatments. And they had booklets and pamphlets on cancer and radiation and surgery. So I took a couple of each of those to look at during my downtimes. And I did not, and by the way, I did not have a pity party. Just put my head in my hands, leaned over and said, oh God, what do I do about this thing? What am I going to do with this? I have cancer. What am I going to do? And the answer came back almost immediately. God said, fight, 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 fight. And so that was my response to the diagnosis of you have prostate cancer. Again, no pity party, just went right to work, started talking to men everywhere. And what I've learned in this journey is that talking about your issues is the first step to healing. It's the first step. Get the monkey off your back, talk to somebody about it. I at the time, again, I had moved up north to take this new job as warehouse assistant manager at the hub for the prisons, actually. We were sending food to all the 32 prisons in California, 32 of them. Imagine that. So it was a huge warehouse up in Fresno. I began talking to the men working with me and where I lived at the time about, did they know anything, or could they add anything? Could they teach me something? Could they share with me their journeys or anything like that? And of course, the stigma had men not talking about it at all. And the most important part was that I realized that most Black men didn't have a clue about prostate cancer at that time. Didn't have a clue. So I started sharing my journey. Hey man, I've been diagnosed and I've started my treatments, and it's 5 days a week, no weekends, no holidays. It's radiation, external beam. There's no pain associated with it. I'm not being cut on. I'm not having surgery. So those were the benefits. And I started sharing that with every man that I encountered during that time frame, because I learned from reading and hearing from the doctor that Black men are at the highest risk for this disease. So that started me talking to other men about this issue. And again, most men didn't have a clue about it. So I started informing them. Later on, I got back to LA, and from my choir, I was a member of Fame Church, First AME Church in LA, joined the choir there, the Men of Fame Choir. And that's a choir that has a grand total of approximately 82 men. And so I started talking to them at choir rehearsals, at the end of rehearsal. Hey guys, who knows about prostate cancer? Can I share some information with you about that? Can I share with you what the screening is about it? So at that time, the DRE was the prominent screening for prostate cancer. But what I found out later is that the DRE doesn't detect early stages of cancer. It mostly only detects the later stage, when the tumor starts to grow inside of the prostate.
Freddie, I've never heard the term DRE. What is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Pastor Rhonda. So the DRE, the digital rectal exam. So that's where the doctor sticks the glove finger through the rectum to feel the backside of the prostate. And let me say this, I had that test 6 months before taking this job. And the doctor then told me, oh, I'm fine. He didn't feel anything. And so I was fine. But then 6 months later, at the annual physical, from the blood test, my numbers were at 14. So you see the difference there? Again, asymptomatic, no symptoms at all, found early where it was non-aggressive and treatable. And that's most likely why I'm still here today, because, I took the radiation treatments, no harmful after effects afterwards, it improved my quality of life because, you know what? I beat a culprit that was a killer. And I survived the thing with ease. And I'm willing to talk to anyone who will listen about my journey and about the issues of the education on prostate cancer. And thus, the men in my church, Men of Fame Choir, said, hey, man, you're talking to us so much about this thing. Every week you have something to say about it. So why don't you start an organization to do it around the country, around the city, around the county, the city, county, and beyond. And I said, hey, guys, that's a good idea. So hence, I started the Men's Cancer Network Incorporated. And at first, I started off as a sole proprietor because it didn't start off as a nonprofit. It started off as a sole proprietor because I just had the determining need to share my information, my journey with men everywhere, because again, men didn't have a clue about it. So I wanted to get them informed. Plus, one of the ladies at my church shared a scripture with me where God said in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, my people will perish from lack of knowledge. So she shared that with me. And then I said, oh, well, wait a minute, let me think about that. So then I looked it up myself, and it was actually there. And I said, okay, God, help me get them informed. So that was my response to God's wording of my people will perish from lack of knowledge. Amen. So that fortified my efforts to start a men's group or a cancer organization to get men educated. We're not a treatment center. We're not a hospital. We're just an advocacy organization because men need to be informed. We can save lives just from informing men about the issues. And so there you have it. 15 years later, I must add that my cancer came back. 15 years later, yay, they came back. At that time, I equated to cancer is like sin. When it comes back on you, it hits you quadruple. So it was way worse than my first diagnosis, whereas it was consuming 95% of my prostate. Because I still have my prostate 15 years later, it's almost totally consumed, but it had not escaped the capsule. The little wall that has not escaped it. So I'm eternally grateful for that, because if it hadn't metastasized, I probably would not be before you today. But it did not. And so I connected with Keck Medicine of USC, had the surgery. It was successful. I am now cancer-free and alive. My PSA now is undetectable, 0.1. Yay!
Yay! We've mentioned the PSA a couple of times. So we often hear PSA 14, a PSA 40. So what is a good PSA? How do men know when the doctor tells them that they have a PSA of whatever? It's like, whew, I'm okay.
Okay.
Then I also heard you said undetectable.
Great point, Pastor Rhonda. Let me try and expound on that, please. So normal levels, when a man takes a PSA, and by the way, PSA stands for prostate-specific antigen. That's the blood test. It's the blood test only. It's not the digital rectal exam. It's the blood test. Okay, so the blood, it's like with Jesus. The blood don't lie. Take the blood test. You most likely get accurate results unless you're doing something prior to the test, like having sex 72 hours prior to taking that test, riding a bike. I encourage men not to ride a bike, motorcycle, horseback ride, roller skating, because you fall and hit that tailbone that activates the prostate, and you could have a false positive reading. So when men take the blood test, and by the way, that has to be requested because it is not part of a normal annual physical. I've had guys tell me, oh man, I took my physical, I'm good. No, you're not, because the PSA was not included. Men have to specifically ask for the PSA. And the doctor should be happy to get you, have the blood taken for your PSA. So a normal PSA, great point, Pastor Rhonda, is a number 4 or less. 4 or less to be deemed normal. Okay, anything above 4 is abnormal, and you're going to get a call to come back for a follow-up. Okay.
So if it's undetectable, then is that something that I need to be concerned about and maybe have another exam in 6 months or a year? What is undetectable?
Okay, so undetectable has to end up being a 4 or less. The blood test itself, 4 or under. Okay, undetectable means the numbers are 0.1 or 0.2 or 0. Whatever. That makes the PSA test undetectable. The PSA screening undetectable, which means there's no cancer there. So there's nothing to worry about. Encouragement to continue, even if you are deemed not to have cancer, or it is said that your PSA is undetectable, you still need to continue your annual screenings. The screenings, the PSA has to be done once a year for every Black man over the age of 40. Every Black man, unless your doctor says otherwise, because you could be on active surveillance, you could be on a watchful wait, because your PSA could be 3.8 or 3.5 or close to 4, and the doctor wants to monitor you. So you could be doing PSAs every 3 months, every quarter, or twice a year, annually. That's between you and your doctor. In the meantime, you should have a PSA every year, unless your doctor says otherwise. Does that help, Pastor Rhonda?
That's good. Pastor Latchison, you talked about your wife being there to open the letter, read the letter, make you do what you're supposed to do, follow through. How important would you say a support system is, including friends, family, other survivors along your recovery process?
Thank you for that. First of all, Freddie, man, this is so helpful. When I first was informed of my diagnosis, I had no one to talk to it at the time, and I felt like a victim. I didn't even know what was the appropriate response other than prayer and just putting my life in the hands of God. And even though that gave me strength and comfort, but as far as my circle around, there was no one that I knew. Rhonda, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment, but it was unusual. I did a series of meetings, men's retreats and men's conference, and I was speaking at them. And I would run into guys because I would ask for prayer at the end. I was leading up to preparing for surgery, and I would ask for prayer at the end. And I would always run into someone who would tell me about their experience. And what was interesting about that period, it was about a 6-month period that I was speaking at several places around the country and around the state. I found myself 3 times during that period in a bathroom with men who were trying to urinate with a swollen prostate. And to hear how they groaned and suffered. And I knew that the Lord was trying to get my attention the whole time. Like, wake up, man. Wake up. This is the pathway, and you're going to have to finish this. And to have someone who just took up the mantle and say, I'm going to be a voice to men. Brother, that's a saving endeavor. I hope you get to hear how many men you rescued from craziness just by informing them or keeping it in front of them. So that's tremendous. Now to the question at hand. My wife, she probably should have been a doctor or nurse. She just kind of have those kinds of nerves. If anything that just needs to be done, she is the one to be giving instructions on, nope, you got to take it now. Nope, get up. That's her. Anyway, she is that kind of person. And she's been rock solid since day one, and not so hard to where, just kind of get you in line. She's been tender enough so that I could hear her, but she's been constant enough so that I would not downplay it or ignore it. She's been near. She's helped put language to just having to talk about it and putting me in a space to where I can talk about it. I can discuss it. I can share my thoughts. I can voice any fears that I have or just a nervous. We've been married about 23 years. Early on, getting to know each other, we had some intense fellowship. But in the last 5 years, the last diagnosis, the biggest argument we've had was in the doctor's office. And I was trying to keep from saying how I really felt. And she was trying to pull it out of me. And she just really kind of took me by the lapel and just demanded, what is really going on in your head? And when I finally said it, it came out strong, but I felt so much relieved. And to have a woman who is discerning enough just to know that, you're not saying everything you need to say, but also strong enough to hear it has been saving grace. That's a good word, good phrase. So it's critical. It's really critical, especially if you're navigating this for the first time and your mind you'll talk yourself out of it. Good intentions, but you'll retreat or withdraw. And having a support system who knows you well enough, but who has the patience to walk with you through it is key.
That's absolutely wonderful, Pastor. Women are much more smarter about these things, and they understand it way more than we seem to. And I heard from your testimony just then that you felt so much better after you released it, after you actually verbalized the words. So you see, that's my point about let's talk about it. You start talking about the issues, that's the first step and sign to healing.
Yeah.
And you feel better. You just start feeling better. And, by sharing your journey or your situation, there are prayer warriors all over the place. Someone may hear your story and begin to pray for you. Or they might add you to their prayer warrior list. Or they may share it with someone else who's a prayer warrior and start praying for you. Because the one thing I do know is that when prayers go up, blessings come down.
Yes, indeed.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yes,
so thank you, Pastor. I appreciate it. Now you're able to speak freely now about your issues. And I'm so grateful that you are able to do that. And I will be available to talk to your men's group if you so desire.
Thank you.
So I want to bring up a question that a lot of women don't understand.
Okay.
Men don't like to go to the doctor. I know the two of you, hats off to you both because you are yet still here to tell the story. But what can we do to encourage men to go to the doctor for anything? Maybe it's not, prostate cancer, but what can we do?
That's a tough question, Pastor Rhonda, because men, especially Black men, are so stigmatized with not going to the doctor and feeling that they will triumph over anything. And it's an ego thing and a denial thing. I wish I had the key to open the door, to unlock the lock, to say, hey, this is how we're going to get all of our men to get to a doctor. Because I truly believe that as a people, we are not well until all of us are well. Okay? So
that's good.
We can share the numbers. I don't know how important to some men this might be, but the latest numbers for the cancer rates have increased, and that is not good. Not good at all. These numbers are coming from the American Cancer Society, guys. And incident rates have increased. The mortality rates have increased. And that's not good. That is not good. So I don't know if sharing these numbers with the men will help them decide to go to the doctor, sharing the testimonies. I'm happy to do that. I can step outside my door right now and start sharing my testimony. That's how active and available I am about it. And I would yell it all the way from my street to Crenshaw Boulevard if men would hear it and take heed. I'm even able to escort men to the doctor. Hey, make the appointment. I'll go with you. Because I need you to get to that doctor. I need you to get there. I need you to be a little bit more proactive about your own health. I need you to start with a healthier diet. include some exercise, because some of us haven't done a push-up or jumping jack in 20, 30 years. They're not active in the gym. So so exercise is extremely important with this thing. So is diet. But getting to the doctor is the most important thing, because you cannot defeat a culprit you're not aware of. You can't. Never in a lifetime will you be able to do that. So if you look at the sports teams, all professional and the collegiate teams, they watch films of their opponents to find out how to defeat them. It's pretty much, I relate that to what we're doing.
Good.
You have to be more proactive about your own health. There's tons of information right now. If you have a cell phone, you can put out your cell phone, go to Google or Siri and say, show me prostate cancer information. And it will pop right in your palms of your hands from a smartphone. So and then plus there's all kinds of infomercials, advertisements. I mean, it's all over the place. Want to encourage men to start paying attention to those. Start reading the information. And if someone in your group has experienced it, allow them to speak on it and listen to what they're saying. And the benefit is to get yourself to a doctor to get screened. Because it's all about, we're promoting cancer screenings because we know they're evidence-based and they save lives. Hallelujah.
Pastor Charles, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, it would be just more options of just trying to figure out ways to do that. Most men, I don't know if that's most men has somebody that they listen to. If it's the granddaughter or the sister.
Favorite cousin, whatever.
Yeah, they have one. And usually that's the voice that would be the tipping scale. If it's a place in the heart of women, if they're ever in any circle of where they know a man who stands in front of other men, speaks, leads, that they could ask and request, can you encourage hospital visits? Just even like men like Freddie, who has the passion, always looking for ways to be in front of men. And it takes maybe listening to it a dozen times. I was able to escort a few men, just even walking them through the initial diagnosis, and even with my own story, and walking them through how to talk about it or even how to process it after the case. But that's only been a handful. In any time, any man who has gone through can just go to breakfast or in any kind of setting to where you can share with a guy. I remember years ago when I went to traffic school, the teacher would say, stay away from sidewalk lawyers who don't know traffic laws and trying to tell you what to do and what not to do. Stay away from sidewalk doctors who's trying to tell you what would happen, what would not happen. But just to hear about, for someone to give you a sense of what it would be like to talk you through a biopsy and just to help you to have the right head going in, any of that, any opportunity you can get to hear someone else's story, I believe that will help. But in the meantime, as much as possible, whatever way we can hear this right here, prayerfully, this will help some men to remove the stigma about going into the doctor. So that's all.
Hopefully, Pastor, hopefully.
So how did your cancer journey affect your relationships, both personal and professional? Or did it?
So at my time of diagnosis, the very first time, 2007, well, I did not have a love interest at that time. In fact, I was coming off of a breakup, and that actually helped me take that job in Northern California to get away. Oh my God. So no love interest at the time, not married or anything. So, and I'm currently not married. So that still holds true. But I faced this thing alone. And my sense of empathy with other men who, regardless of whether they had a support system, a wife or family members or not, they need to hear the situation or hear the issues or the essence of it from another man. I've realized that most men don't want to talk to their wives about it because she's a woman. She doesn't know. She doesn't have a prostate. She's never going to go through this. So I find it helpful that some men will speak to us because I'm a survivor and I've been there, done that. And they tend to open a little bit more to me than they would for their wives. But I would tell them that, continue to speak with the little lady and bring her with you when you go to your doctor's appointments, because she may have questions that you may not have thought about. Okay. I've always said women are much smarter about these things than we are. And I hold to that even today. So I did start another relationship after my first diagnosis. That ended as well. So I'm not sure that my cancer had anything to do with it. What I've learned in these 17 years is that sometimes some women will have a girlfriend meeting. And at that meeting, I've actually seen women come to the man and say, listen, I can't do this anymore. Because a guy had just had surgery. We were at Marina Del Rey Hospital visiting one of our members who had just had prostate cancer surgery. And I took a group, it was about 6 of us standing around his bed the day after surgery. And his lady of, I think 9 years, showed up at the hospital, stepped into the door of his room and said, I can't do this anymore, and turned around and walked off. And I think that was the product of, there was a girlfriend meeting, and at that meeting, it was said that he probably wouldn't be able to have sex anymore or something along that line, and she just gave up. But I can tell you is that it brought me closer to God. My faith has increased tenfold, and I've gotten closer to him, and he's gotten closer to me. And I have realized my prayers have been answered. So in that sense, that's the best thing that could have happened to me, this cancer diagnosis. So
that brings me to the scripture where it asks the question, whose fault is it that this child is sick? Is it the mother's fault? Is it God, or is it the father's fault? And the response is simply that the Lord would be glorified.
hallelujah.
However God is glorified in this journey, in this process, we will
Hallelujah.
receive it and recognize that that is um, a possibility, a possibility. So I had a guy that I met that was a 2-time prostate cancer survivor. At the time, he was 75 years old, and he came to me and he started out the conversation with, Pastor, I would like to know, how do I have the conversation with women after I've been diagnosed? What would you say to him?
One, I was married when I was diagnosed both times and still married. And it's been a journey, and it's been a huge adjustment because the first diagnosis, I had surgery, and it caused a lot of changes physically. And my wife and I, we had to walk through just some major adjustments on what that would mean for our life intimately. And she's been patient, but she's been strongly supportive. And there's a courageous side that I had to pick up just in terms of how I would move forward in engaging in intimacy with my wife. And you really have to trust with what's available for you and find what works for you. Now we can be a little bit more detailed, but I want to get to your question. But my wife, her mindset, her love, her attitude was key in that. And she has walked through it. Maybe you want to put her on a podcast. Lord help us. I almost want to just like be a little quiet here because this is the argument that the guy makes to keep from going to the doctor. I only know of about 4. No. Well, I know for a fact 4. I would probably say more than 4. I know of about 4 scenarios to where every debate, this is no exaggeration, that I had with men who chose not to go, they're not living now. They're gone. They're gone on to be with the Lord. They did not survive that decision. They won the argument, but they lost the war. They lost it. So in terms of having the conversation, to give them the pros and cons, but you got to know what kind of woman you have. You got to learn that. So I've only had one conversation with a brother who asked that kind of question, but it really weighs on the kind of woman you have. That's as far as I can go with it. I'll hand the baton off to Freddie.
Thank you, Pastor. So you share some incredible points there, amazing points, actually, because that's a way to wake folks up and help them realize that, hey, this could happen to me. Because in the Black communities, 1 in 5 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetimes. And so to say that you knew 5 men who are no longer with us, that should be a wake-up call right there. I know I have seen or spoken to or had consultations with, I can't even put a number on it, how many men that over these 17 years. And for the most part, the vast majority of them are no longer with us because they either were in denial, they just didn't want to hear it, and they would do like I see a lot of men do when we have a booth at a health fair. They will walk past us like we're passing out the plague. I mean, come on, this is information about you and your health. So I think it's important to consult the women to let them know what their men are going through. We've had events specifically to the women because women need to understand what the men are going through. If the man is unable to become intimate with his spouse or partner or significant other, well, ladies, it's not really because he's seeing someone else. It could be a health issue that's preventing him from being that type of intimate with you. So don't automatically go to, oh, you're not giving it to me, you must be giving it to somebody else. When you assume, you could be wrong. Most time assumptions are headed down the negative pathway, and that's not a good thing. Because there are 3 issues associated with a man's prostate that women need to know about, because it's going to affect your bedroom activities. So it's prostatitis, infection and inflammation. There's enlarged prostate, number 2, and then there's prostate cancer. As men age, and they don't have to do they really don't have to do anything specifically to cause these issues. It's because they keep waking up every day that causes these issues. Okay, and some of it is due to maybe abuse of illicit drugs or alcohol or medications. Those play a small part, but the actual effect on the prostate is due to a man just keep waking up. You get 40 or 50, and things are going to your health is going to change. Period. Okay, Pastor Rhonda.
And that your response really takes us into what could be a whole nother podcast, which is just communication. Because had you told me that in the first place, we wouldn't have to be having this conversation in the second place. So, but that's communication. We're not going there. But to wrap our conversation up today, I just have one more question. What advice would you give a man who's recently been diagnosed with cancer? What would that be? What would you say? Someone is listening today and they're saying, feel like I need to go to the doctor, or I just went and I'm waiting for the response. Pastor Charles, tell me, what would you tell me?
I would begin to get them to seek answers for just big questions, main questions. 1, how do you want to live? What kind of quality of life do you want? Who do you care about that you want to be here for? Or, whatever would be the big answer for them. And I would begin there. Okay, then let's see how we can make that a reality for you. And let's walk through this. And I would walk him through the process. I mean, there's 2 guys, one already finished, one I'm walking with right now. He's coming out of radiation and he's going to ring the bell tomorrow.
Yay.
The bell tomorrow.
All right now.
My man. And so I would walk with him through it and continue to let them know that there is real joy, there is real life on the other side of it.
Hallelujah, Pastor. Hallelujah. Okay. And then I will take that to say that I would encourage all men to do your own research. Be your own best advocate if that's possible. If not, talk to the little lady. Talk to your mom or that favorite cousin or that brother or sister or whoever you have trust in to talk to them about your issue And they, on the other hand, should encourage you to continue the process of learning more, being better informed, because what I want to share is that an informed decision is the best decision. I mentioned earlier about watching the films, watching the films to check out your culprit, because you cannot defeat a culprit you're not aware of. So learn as much as you can. Never go to a doctor's office without a list of 5 to 10 questions. Never. And then never go alone. Take someone with you. Take your son, take your kids with you. Because guess what, guys? Our kids emulate us. Because if they never see you going to the doctor, when they grow up, what do you think they're going to do? Okay? So take the kids with you. Take your list of questions with you, and then leave space for the answer. You can either record the doctor's appointment conversations, write them down, or have the doctor give it to you in writing. You can make that request. That way you can reflect on it at home with the little lady, okay, or your significant other. And then most instances, if cancer is found early, you have time to make decisions. You have time to go over all of your options and make an informed decision as to how to move forward. But the best thing of all is be your own best advocate. Learn what you can about this thing, because it is a thing and it is happening. And we, the African American communities, are at 2 times higher risk than any other ethnicity in this world. And we're dying more. These deaths can be prevented. And so I highly encourage every man to learn more, get yourself educated, contact us. Well, I'm happy to do a consult with you and the family. Talk to your doctor. The doctor should be able to provide you with pamphlets, books, materials on the subject. Okay, but don't just get them and sit them down and never look at them. Open them up, read them, check them out, get yourself informed. And if necessary, call me. I'll go to your doctor's appointment with you. I'll go to your treatment with you. I'll sit there while you lay on the table for radiation treatment. I'll sit there while you go through the robotic arm surgery and wait for you, and take you there and get you back home safely. That's what I am willing to do. In the name of Jesus.
Freddie, you've taken a moment to tell us about what you're willing to do. While you're right there on that point, can you tell us about the Men's Cancer Network and how can we get in touch with you?
Sure. So, oh my God, the Men's Cancer Network was founded back in 2008 by myself, prostate cancer survivor, a year after I had been diagnosed and completed my own treatments, and started advocating to men about the issues of prostate cancer and what men need to do to stay alive. So we have a website, www.themenscancernetwork.com, and we have been reached as far away as Omaha, Nebraska, and Lake Charles, Louisiana, from men around the country and out of the country. Actually, can't think of the guy's name now, but the website is worldwide. So please check out the website, specifically the calendar of events page. That's where we post all of our events. But visit the whole website, all 6 links to the website. And my stories are even on there under testimonies. So we have 6 links to the website. And you can email me at Freddie, that's a lowercase FREDDIE, at themenscancernetwork.com. Okay, and I can also be reached at 323-643-4049 for any type of advocacy related to health issues, cancer in particular, for any man. And guys, let me just say this. If cancer happens to run in your family, and if you've lost a father or a grandfather or a brother or an uncle to cancer, I would highly recommend that you get treated. Even if you lost a mother or a grandmother to breast cancer, because the BRCA1 and 2 gene is responsible for cervical, breast, and prostate cancers. So some of these cancers are hereditary. Okay, but you need to know that. Know your family history, because that could be meaningful to your life, to your health. Okay, and get as informed as you can about these issues. And Pastor Rhonda, I hope that answered your question.
That did. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you, Pastor Charles, Mr. Freddie, for sharing. And this, I really see us having another conversation, to tell you the
Indeed.
truth.
Indeed. Pastor Charles, reach out to me if you can, if you will.
Yes, I will.
And let's connect.
Thank you. Would
God
love
bless
that.
So I would like to thank you both for being with us today. Again, this was our CaRE2 podcast, Embracing Life Together, a conversation on cancer in the Black community. And I'm your host, Pastor Rhonda. And until next time, use life.